you dream new ones. Absolutely. I had a choice that day. I could sit down there and wallow in the weeds that I found myself in, or to lift myself up and go forward, knowing that tomorrow might be better than today. The ambulance finally came, put me in it. We get to the clinic. They didn't have the equipment to take it, so we had to go all the way to Ogden. The fastest way to Ogden is through Logan, but if you recall, from Preston to Logan, there is road construction. So we had to go to the back roads. If you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, you know that it's farm country. We had to go on the dirt roads. They did not give me any painkiller or medication or drugs. They wanted me to tell the doctors where it hurt, and I wanted to reach up and slap them on the face and say it hurts everywhere. That's okay. I'm like, let's go. We were bouncing all over the place. Every bump, every pebble, every pothole, every rock that we rolled over vibrated up the bus into the gurney and into my back, and the pain was just excruciating. And I thought they had folded me in half with my feet this way. And the pain was so excruciating. I thought to myself, if I truly am paralyzed, why do I feel so much pain? And I was in excruciating pain, guys. I really, truly was. In fact, I wanted something to alleviate it, and the EMTs wouldn't give me any drugs either. So I'm like, what can I do to get rid of this pain? And so I thought of my buddy who was like, he cut his finger one time and saw blood and he passed out. I'm like, that's it, I gotta pass out. I can't do it. And the EMTs are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's not working. Right. And so the second thought came to my mind. When I was boxing with my buddies, I learned that if you hit somebody really hard right here, they get knocked out. So I asked the EMTs, I'm like, hey, guys, will you do me a favor? They're like, yeah, sure. Well, I'm like, well, why don't you hit me as hard as you can? Right there. They're like, no, sorry, doctor's orders. I'm like, oh, man. So I decided to start telling jokes. And halfway through my joke, I'm not lying, I'm not making this up. One EMT said to the other EMT, do you want to hit him or do you want me to? Apparently it wasn't a great joke, right? But I am a strong believer, I really am. I really do believe that you can find joy and happiness even in the most miserable circumstances, if you look for them. Right? I wasn't looking for them at that time. I wasn't prepared. But I was trying to make the best out of the situation that I was placed in. And can I just tell you, it was the longest 3-hour journey of my life. I'm sure it was the longest 3-hour journey of their lives. Because I did that with my little kid on vacation. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How much further? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? How much further? And but can I just tell you, there is strength in the struggle. And I found peace in the pain. I really did. Truly did. We finally got to the hospital. They pulled me out, rushed me to the emergency room, took a picture of my back, and they came and they confirmed my fears. They came back and they said, your L1 vertebrae is shattered. You're paralyzed from the waist down. You will be forever. You won't walk. You won't move again. We're going to have surgery in 3 days. The room started to spin. The news wasn't great. It's impossible. It's a life sentence for a 21-year-old kid. So what do? You dream new dreams. And surgery went well. Surgery went great. The doctors told me I'd never walk again, never move my legs again. I was bound and determined that I would. Woke up from surgery, nothing from the waist down. Couldn't feel it, couldn't move. My buddies thought it was really neat to come in and give me a Charlie horse or a horse bike. They just pinch my leg as hard as they can. Like, can you feel that? I'm like, no, I can't. And they do it even harder. Can you feel that? I'm like, you do it again, you'll feel something. But they thought it was just neat that I say that like no big deal. They thought it was so neat. They were not that callous, I promise. They really weren't. But another thing too, I believe that time and tragedy equals humor. A lot of times you can turn around and look back, and you can see that it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. But nothing. Life sentence. You're not going to walk again. I was bound and determined to walk out of the hospital. I was given 3 months of therapy to get better and to do whatnot. And to give you an idea, it took me about 20 minutes and 3 nurses to get me out of my bed into a wheelchair to go into therapy when I was in the hospital. It took me a half an hour to dress myself in the morning. And things that were easy were not anymore. They were impossible to do. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk out of this hospital. 3 months is what they gave me before they were going to discharge me. I convinced, because all my loved ones were somewhere else, my support system was somewhere else, I convinced the doctors to let me, every time they came, I'm like, can I go home? They're like, no, you're here 3 months. So there was a suggestion box down at the bottom of the hospital. Every day, I wrote down there and wrote down, let Jeff Griffin go. I left the hospital in 2 months, a month early, right? But I didn't walk. I didn't walk out of it. In fact, it took me 15 minutes to get from the wheelchair into the van that I was going home with, and they let me use a little wooden board to get over there. And it felt like I was crossing the Grand Canyon. The divide was just so immense. It was only a 12-inch board that I was on, trying to scoop myself into this van, and it took me 15 minutes to get into the van. The doctors were right? Never walked with me, never moved my legs. In fact, when I was in the hospital and I was standing up on the parallel bars, I was looking for signs for improvements, signs to keep you motivated, signs that help give you a little bit more oomph in that desire. And I remember standing on the parallel bars with my braces on my legs, and I was standing up there, and as soon as I let go, I tip over, and I had to hold on to it. And the only way to get from one end of the parallel bars to the other parallel bars was to walk. And the way I did it was the therapist would grab my legs, and they would pull my legs as I pretended to lift my legs and walk. We'd go down there, we'd come back, and then I'd practice trying to let go and keep my balance. I went from 10 seconds, 0 seconds to 10 seconds, to 20 seconds to 30 seconds. And I was excited about the improvement. And I went and turned, and I went and told my doctor as I would visit my surgeon, I'm like, listen, I stood without any help for 30 seconds. I was so excited about this. And the doctor turned to me and looked me straight in my eyes, and he says, don't get your hopes up. You'll never walk. You'll never move your legs again. It's impossible. He's the expert, right? He was inside me. He's the one who fixed me. So my question, you guys, is who do we listen to? Do we listen to the experts? Or do we listen to the expert? Because there's a voice inside of all of us telling us how great we are and how good we can be and what we can accomplish. Man, I'm curious to listen to that voice. She accomplished the impossible. So who do we listen to? The experts or the expert? So I thought 6 months was reasonable, right? I'm going to walk in 6 months. Nothing. 1 year, walk. Nothing. In fact, I remember living, as in my home, my grandmother lived with us. And she walked around the house with a walker. And she would sit in her pink full-body pajamas and her white, bright hair. And I used to tease my mom that we should call it Griffin Rehabilitation out front. And her ailments, and her solution for all ailments was a root beer float. And I loved it because I'd come in from school and she'd look at me, she's like, it looks like you could use a root beer float. I'm like, let's go, Grandma, let's get it. But I remember, I'm like, I got to do something here. I've got to make this happen. But the thing is, I couldn't lift my legs. I couldn't flex my muscles. But there was a moment, there was a time when I was sitting there, and there was a little strand of muscle that ran up my quads. So I could flex. So I'd sit, and I would practice trying to lift my legs as hard as I could. And here I am, not even moving. But in my mind, I am exercising, and I am lifting 400 pounds, extending it out this way. And I'm just sitting there. And people would walk by, they'd see me sweating, they'd see me grunting, and I'm thinking to myself, who are you? I'm like, don't worry about me. there was a moment where I got to do something more. And so I saw my grandmother and her walker over there, and so I decided I'm going to try that. So I grabbed her walker from her. She was sitting down, I promise you that. That'd be me. Take it while she's standing. I'd be cursed forever. But no, I went and grabbed her walker, and the room where I grabbed the walker from was about that table to that edge, about 20 feet. So I got myself up into the walker, and it was just my grandmother and I at this moment. There's no one else in the home. And so if anything happened, my grandma was not going to help. And I got up, used the walker, and I started my journey, my 20-foot journey across the room. By this time, I was able to flex. I wouldn't even say flex. I was able to lift my hips up and swing my legs high enough to where I could go in front of the other. And then I get this side, and I flip it in front of the other. And I worked my way from this side of the room to that side of the room. And I turned around, and beads of sweat were just dripping down my forehead. And I looked at the clock, and the journey took 30 minutes to go 20 feet. I was exhausted. I had no more in me. And I realized that my grandmother can't come and give me my chair. No one's in the home. So I had to cross that divide once more. It's impossible, right? So I turned around and I went and I crossed that divide one more time. This time it took me an hour to get back. I was exhausted. I was tired. That's what I did for the first time, up on my legs, trying to get from here to there. Something that the doctors told me was impossible. You'll never walk. You'll never move your legs again. It's been 18 years. It's not perfect, but I'm up. What used to take me minutes took me seconds. Thank you. 6'1" to be exact. 4'7" in my chair. 4'7" and 6'1". They told me it was impossible. They told me it couldn't be done. They told me that I can't do it. I'm going to go 20 feet that I went the very first time, if I can. If I fall down, don't catch me. I'll just pick myself back up, right? If I fall. Here we go. It's impossible, right? When you change that word I can't to I can. I can do it. I can discover it. I can find it. And if you use I can't, you include not yet. But I promise you, with the right desire, and with the dream, and the dedication to do, you can do it one step at a time. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I'm not quite there yet. I'm getting there. I will jump someday. I will go on walks with my wife someday, hand in hand, give my daughters piggyback rides, box out my son on the basketball court. I was told it's impossible, but I'm possible. And you're possible. Thank you very much.